Arcade Heroes.
Hey everyone, this is Adam with ArcadeHeroes.com, here with an update on the Exa-Arcadia platform. This is something I've covered on the channel various times. I've covered it on the website since February 2018, so we've been hotly anticipating the release of this platform to arcades, which, if you're not familiar with it, just think of it as a modern Neo Geo MVS, an arcade platform that allows you to swap out games easily by just switching out cartridges, and it has 4 cartridge slots. But here's a little bit of video of it there. But we received some news on Sunday thanks to JBRPG, who caught that the Exa website launched several pages showing off their pre-order setup. Now, when I heard of this news, I did panic a little bit. I got the message a little later in the day. I don't always check my messages on Sunday. But as you can see here, it mentions the ExaArcadia hardware kit, mentions a price, but down there it says no longer available for pre-ordering. So that's where I thought that, oh no, I missed out on this. But in fact, I didn't, and nobody else did either, because the pre-orders did not go live. It was just the pages, and so in a way these are kind of placeholder pages, so you don't have to worry about it if you've been wanting to get your hands on this system. No, you didn't miss out yet. And ExaArcadia will make an official announcement when pre-orders go live, and also have that news on ArcadeHeroes.com, maybe another video if we want to do that, but it'll be happening soon, just not yet. But the existence of these pages does give us some more information to go off of, namely the price. As you can see there, the price of an ExaArcadia hardware kit is $2,500, which is a little bit more than they had originally anticipated. They were originally hoping to have it launch for about $2,000, but there's always factors that come into play in hardware production that can cause costs to increase. And so, but still, $2,500 for a arcade platform, I think, is pretty good, pretty solid. I mean, when you compare that to what's out on the market these days, like I'd say the average cost of an arcade machine, brand new dedicated upright game, is around $8,000, and of course you have plenty of games out there that are hitting the $30,000 range, like the Halo Fireteam Raven Super Deluxe, or the House of the Dead Scarlet Dawn is like $28,000. And so a lot of these big elaborate games come with big and elaborate price tags, and so $2,500 in lieu of that is really peanuts. But of course, for collectors, that is a pretty penny, and it's a really, really expensive game console if that's all you were looking for. But again, that's not what it's intended for. It's intended to go into arcades like the one I'm sitting in, so that they can make money for the businesses and spread out glorious arcade content to arcades and people everywhere. Now, there are 20 announced titles, over 20 announced titles. If you go to the games link on exa.ac, you can get a look at some of those, but there are a few titles that had been announced but are not mentioned here. But we won't really get into that. Another thing to point out about this launch, or about this web launch here, is that the first batch of Exa boards will not come with the online features installed. Now, the online portion is supposed to allow for player accounts. It's also supposed to be connected with an app, I believe. It'll have Twitch streaming, so there's a lot of cool stuff that is going to be available with that, but the first wave of kits will not have that with them. And so what will happen is that in 2020, when that portion of the hardware releases, when that's upgraded, everybody that was in on the first wave will get that hardware upgrade for free, and so you will be able to enjoy that, all of those features, and won't have to pay more to get it. But that will also coincide with a new game release, as I was told that it will be a major release. Don't know what it is, don't know who's making it, but whatever it is, it'll probably be something that'll take advantage of those aforementioned features and maybe then some, to make this a real modern take on arcade gaming, and maybe attached with esports and the like. Now, there is one other little problem with the US and European markets, and that's why this was released in Japan first. I got a picture here of the Japanese. Oops, let me get my windows correct. Here we go. We have this is an Exa board being assembled in Japan back in September, and over on the right hand side you see those little blue rectangles. Those are game cartridges. Now in Japan it only released with Aka and Blue Type R. With the US and European release, it will release with launch with 4 games: Strani EX, the Kung Fu vs. Karate Champ, Infinos Exa, and Super Hydora AC. Also, as you can see from this webpage, there are hardware bundles which save you a little bit of money, $500, if you buy the system with one of the cartridges like that. But getting back to the issue in the US market, we don't have a generic game cabinet that's been mass produced anytime in recent memory, and that's because pretty much all games that have been released to this market have come with their own specialized designs. Like sitting in front of me, you can't see it here, is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cabinet by Raw Thrills. And so there wasn't necessarily a cabinet, well, they had a cabinet template to use based on the Injustice arcade game, but they did have to come up with their own control panel and a couple of other things to make it unique to that. But there isn't like some 4-player cabinet that you can just go out and buy and then throw any 4-player game into it, like you could back in the late 80s, early mid 90s. Now Japan doesn't really have that problem. They have cabinets like the Vulix cabinet and the Noir and Limburg Universal cabinets, and that's actually mentioned on the Exa-Arcadia website. There's this article here that was posted in February of this year that talks about the different cabinets that they recommend that an Exa be installed into. They recommend the Taito Vulix CF versus Diamond Black models, as well as the Limburg Universal refurbished and the Noir Full HD. And the reason why they recommend those cabinets is because of a little problem called input lag. Now, if you're into fighting games, rhythm games, then you're probably familiar with what input lag is, but I won't really get into it here, other than to say that does create a little problem here in the US market, that since we don't have a dedicated cabinet, you'll have to come up with something if you want this board to work. But if you do and you get something that has like its own monitor to it, you need to make sure that the monitor has low input lag, and that's not something that a lot of monitors promote or mention. But I believe most gaming monitors these days tend to have low input lag, and it's not so big an issue. But perhaps if Exa is a big success, maybe they or somebody else will come up with a nice dedicated cabinet design that has really good monitors in it, so low input lag, and is also compatible with the JVS standard, but it's also going to be able to work in a JAMA cabinet. The Exa-Arcadia kit only comes with the board itself, DVI-D cable, and the power cable. So again, if you want to have something to play, you do need to spend a little bit more to get one of these games. I'd probably recommend the hardware bundle, since that'll save you money. But with Strania and the Kung Fu vs. Karate Champ, those are $1,500 each. Infinos and Super Hydora are $1,200, and we'll probably see other pricing just depending on certain things that take place here in the future. But either way, we've got more content coming to arcades thanks to this platform, more games, a lot of genres that have been underserved here in the Western market, since our market's been mainly obsessed with light gun or driving games or redemption games. And so these are definitely more for a hardcore or core gaming audience as opposed to casuals. I mean, Strania and Infinos and Super Hydora all being shoot 'em up games, which, you know, personally I love these type of games, but most of my customers don't play them. I mean, that said, I did get a Darius Burst Another Chronicle cabinet back in 2012, and for the first 6 months or so, it did really well. There were actually a few weeks where it did better than my Terminator Salvation, which was my #1 game at the time. But on these pages, it's throwing out information that's important for an arcade operator, not so much the gamer, like how much money it made a week on location test. Now that's important to people like me because, well, if I'm spending a few $1,000s on getting a game, I want to know that I'm going to be able to make my money back, because I can't throw money away on bad investments all the time. I'll go out of business. Money's not an inexhaustible supply, at least for me. And so looking at how much a game makes per week helps me judge whether or not it will do well at my location. Now, of course, the thing with this, with Strania and the other game pages also mention how well the games did on tests, like Super Hydora and Infinos both mentioned that they averaged about 250 a week. I know that these were tests done in Japan, and in Japan the shoot 'em up genre is a lot stronger, a lot more vibrant than it is here in the West, at least in my specific place. I mean, I mentioned Darius Burst did well, but I've had other shoot 'em ups out there like Armed Police Bat Rider and Macross Plus and Raiden 2, and some others that just don't do well at all. They don't really make anything a week, maybe $5 a week if I'm lucky, so they're kind of just filler. But who knows, maybe New Blood, something like this will do well. But also, I was a little burned on the Sky Cursor game. That was another independently made scrolling shoot 'em up, and I supported that from the get-go. But unfortunately, nobody played it. But part of the reason was that I got it when it was an initial beta, and unfortunately, a lot of the people that played it when it was in a very early state didn't come back when it was a better, more finely tuned game, and so kind of burned on that due to me jumping in on that a little too early. But these games, all of these ones mentioned on the Exa board, they're going to be fine-tuned and complete. You won't be funding a beta test or early access game. So that'll be nice. Now, out of those being those three being shmups or shoot 'em ups, one stands out, and that's the Kung Fu versus Karate Champ. And personally, I'm really looking forward to this one because this is one genre that does really well in arcades, or it can do really well in arcades if all of the right factors fall into place, but so often they haven't in the modern times, past 15 years or so. And that's why most arcades, if they do have fighting games, they tend to have games that are 15 to 20 years old, and that's because you just haven't really had fighting games come along in this day and age that have some arcade exclusive content to them or are unique, and this definitely fits the bill of being unique. And it also will have at least one or two unique fighters on it that you won't be able to get on the PC version. Now, also one thing to throw out, on the PC or on Steam, this is not known as the Kung Fu vs. Karate Champ, so if you look that up, it won't pop up with anything. It's known as Shaolin vs. Wu-Tang, I believe, or that might be reversed. So yeah, you can get this on PC, but again, part of the Exa-Arcadia developer guidelines is that everything has to have a unique aspect to it. It has to have unique features. It has to have unique content that are not available on the console cousins. And so because of that, it will help make every arcade version of these games unique and something to go and search for. Now, I do hope that as these games are released, that information will become more clear as to, you know, has this these unique characters or this extra level or whatever it is. But I've also noticed in watching the sizzle reel for Exa, a lot of the time it mentions Exa mode, and so I'm not 100% sure what that means, but again, it just means that, or I guess at its core, it means that the game will have something special about it that you won't get by playing it on home or on your phone. But yeah, that's the latest update on the Exa-Arcadia, so I'll be keeping a eye on this, and as soon as we have more news, especially the pre-orders are open news to share, that'll go up on arcadeheroes.com. But I'm really looking forward to what this will bring to the table in 2020. There are a lot of interesting games that are showing up for this, and a lot of major games that will be finding their way to it. Of course, if the system is a really good seller, then that just increases the chances of well-known content coming to it, AAA quality content, as they say in the home console side of the business. And so really looking forward to what that will be, but also enjoying some of the goofy stuff like it's showing there. Nippon Marathon Turbo is definitely a little different than what you might expect to find in arcades typically, but yeah, if they come out with a dedicated 4-player cabinet that works for the Exa, that would be pretty awesome. But let me know what you think about that, and what you're looking forward to, what you hope to see on the Exa-Arcadia platform as it comes to the West. And again, that should be by the end of the year, probably by Christmas time, New Year's time. This will be available in certain select arcades, and if you do want your local arcade to get their hands on one, if you think they're the right fit for the type of games that they would be showing here, then let them know about it, and make sure that they know to try and get their hands on one if you want to play some of these games. But thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video.